Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Inside the Vinyl. I'm your host, Tim Bianconi. If you could, go ahead and like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel below. That would be greatly appreciated. I'm going to dip back into my live album series again and discuss a live album from a band who, at least in this version, you may not be as familiar with. And I'm talking about the band Whitesnake. This is their 1980 live album. It is called Live in the Heart of the City. It was released on November 3rd, 1980. And just to give you a little backstory, Whitesnake grew from the ashes of Deep Purple. After Deep Purple disbanded in '76, a couple of years later, David Coverdale decided to get back out there, put out a couple of solo records, and did some touring. And one of the albums was called Whitesnake, and then somewhere from there, he put a band together and just named it Whitesnake. They put out their first full album in 1978, and that was called Trouble. They put out their second full album called Love Hunter in 1979, and their third full-length album, Ready and Willing, in 1980. Now, Whitesnake, as we know it from the hairband era stuff, was very different at this time and didn't take off in America. They did, have some, success in England and Japan and other parts of the world, but at this time, they were not successful in America like they were in the mid to late 80s. So this album, as I said, was released in 1980. It was recorded over a couple of nights, June 23rd, 1980 and June 24th, 1980 at the Hammersmith Odeon in London. And let's see, on Billboard, like I said, they weren't a huge thing in America. In the UK, the album was top 10, top 5, number 5 album. In the US, it reached as high as number 146. So not a big deal in America at this time. It's not certified for any gold or platinum in America. However, it is platinum in the UK. And again, like I said, this is the original lineup, if so to speak, of Whitesnake. Which at the time there were 6 members in the band, and it was 3/6 of Deep Purple. You had David Coverdale on vocals, John Lord playing the organ, Ian Pace on drums, all 3 of them from Deep Purple. Then you also had Mickey Moody on guitars, Bernie Marsden on guitars, and a guy named Neil Murray on bass. And from this lineup, only Coverdale and Neil Murray made it into the 80s lineups that were more successful worldwide and in America and everything. So let's take a look inside the vinyl here. So there's no gatefold or anything. There's a couple of different editions of this album, and I'll get back to that in a second. But, here's the front cover with Coverdale highlighted on the front. You can see the rest of the band, but David Coverdale's out in the forefront, as he should be. And on the back of the album, there's a picture of the band getting ready to do their bow at the end of the night. You've got the track listings underneath, the band members, and then the liner notes as far as where it's recorded, special thanks, catering, everybody else. So pretty neat. Let's see what's inside here. I don't think there's much inside this. And this is actually an American issue of this, because this is actually, this one was an American release here because it was distributed by Atlantic Records, if you see on the bottom there. They were distributed by EMI in Europe, as most bands at the time were. So, again, we open it up. We just have the Atlantic inner sleeve, nothing too special there. And, a Mirage sticker in the middle. But again, that was the label they were on, but it was distributed by Atlantic, which was distributed by Warner Brothers. Which, interestingly enough, when he signed his big American record deal with Geffen, at the time they were distributed by Warner Brothers, and he has since recently re-signed with Warner Brothers for a lot of back catalog releases and things of that nature. So, it's funny how things kind of come full circle. So again, there's a couple of different versions of this record, or editions, I should say. There's this one, which is just a single album. Again, the American release. When Whitesnake took off in the late 80s, Geffen actually re-released all this stuff and put it out on cassettes and CDs and whatever else. But in Europe, there's actually a 2-disc version of it, with 2 different concerts. One recorded in 1980, which was the basis of the material here, and then another one recorded in 1978 on their first tour as a full band on the Trouble tour. Also recorded at the Odeon, but was actually in 1978. A little more raw sounding than this one, but actually did include some Deep Purple tunes. They played Mistreated and Might Just Take Your Life, in addition to some of the other Whitesnake tunes from the Trouble album. that maybe aren't included on the main edition here. So there is that version out there. I used to have one. I think I gave it away or sold it at some point in time when I stopped messing with vinyl. It's one of those bonehead moves I wish I could take back, but it is what it is, and here we are. So I want to talk about this album, a little bit. So if you watch my last show that I did on the Leonard Skinner One More from the Road live album, I talked about that album having the best 1-2 punch in the history of live albums. Honestly, this one is probably a close number 2 or 3. It starts with a song it's called Come On, which was from their first EP, Snakebite, that came out before their first albums and stuff did. So they start with that song, which is just a nice, get the crowd going kind of tune. And then they bust right into another tune from their Ready and Willing album called Sweet Talker. Again, to me, it's just that crazy 1-2 punch that you need on a live record, like I said about Skinner, or even like with Deuce and Strutter on Kiss Alive. It's like you just need that 1-2 punch to really get the live album going. And then it kicks into some other tunes that many of you might not know. Walking in the Shadow of the Blues, Love Hunter, Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. Some of y'all might know that one from other versions. And then they end the album with a song called Take Me With You, which just kind of takes off and has this whole jam session in the middle and at the end, which is great. But just before that, they actually, when they took off in the mid to late 80s, they, for some reason, for whatever reason, went back and actually re-recorded new versions of songs that the original Whitesnake had done. And one of those songs was included on this album and was included on the studio album before it. It's a song called Fool for Your Lovin'. It was a huge top 20 hit for them in the UK at the time. Didn't do much here in America at the time, but was later re-recorded for their 1989 Slip of the Tongue album and actually became a top 40 hit for the band with that version. But it's featured here in its original glory. Great tune on here. I actually prefer the original version of that song better than I do the later recorded version. Whereas the other songs that they re-recorded, like Here I Go Again and other stuff, which were early Whitesnake tunes, I actually prefer the 80s glam era versions better. So, but Fool for Your Lovin', the original version from Eddie and Willing and the version that's on here are stellar. So if you're looking for something to relate to on this album, because you might not be that familiar with early Whitesnake, Fool for Your Lovin' would be the way to go. So let's see. We discussed the two versions. Early version of Fool for Your Lovin'. Like I said, once Whitesnake took off in the mid to late 80s, when they signed to Geffen and had Slide It In, the self-titled 87 record, and Slip of the Tongue, Geffen actually went back and, to capitalize on the success of the 1987 album, Geffen actually went back and got the rights to release all of the early Whitesnake content in CD and cassette format, with the exception of Ready and Willing. I'm not sure why they couldn't get the rights to that album, but they had rights to every album before and every album after, including this live record. So you are able to find, at used record stores, maybe an old cassette or an old CD of this album somewhere. It's also available on iTunes and Amazon and anywhere else. And I'm pretty sure, maybe not in America, but in Europe, this album has been reissued, whether in box sets or, other versions, remastered, updated, whatever. It sounds really good. But if you can, pick yourself up a nice vinyl edition of this album, because it's very rich. It sounds great. Again, just like with any live album, I'm not really sure what's overdubbed and what's not, but everything on this record sounds pretty raw. It doesn't sound overdubbed. It doesn't sound overproduced. And, I don't know, even though they were starting to have some success, I don't know that, they necessarily were successful enough at the time to go back and do tons and tons of overdubs. So I have a feeling what you're hearing is what you got in concert with them. So at the time. And like I said, it's 3/6 Deep Purple, so you really can't go wrong, when the core of the band is, from one of the greatest bands in history. So anyway, so check it out. Whitesnake, Live in the Heart of the City, another live album. This one you may not be as familiar with because they weren't huge at the time, but definitely pick it up. You will not be disappointed. That's all I've got for today. Again, if you could go ahead and like, share, comment, and subscribe on my channel below. I've got some other videos on my channel. I've got the rest of my Inside the Vinyl series. I've got the live album series. I've also got the Lost Classic series. I've also got a group of unboxing videos, Unboxing the Vinyl, where we open up reissues and box sets, maybe even some new releases and some different things that come out. That's always fun. And I've got some live concert footage for some festivals. Exit 111, Welcome to Rockville from a couple of years ago. Hopefully I'll be adding some new content soon once concerts start ramping up again in the post-COVID era. I've also got some crappy disc golf videos too if you're into watching that. So again, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and we will see you next time. Peace out.